It seems like he's had a very, very good mini camp and very good little last month here, hanging around the Browns and really just showing off the field and on the field what he can do. What are your expectations for Shedeur this upcoming season?
Well, I think at the end, especially when the preseason starts, he's going to find a way to beat those guys out. That's just my opinion. The eye test tells me at the end of the day. Now, I've known him since he was a little kid, but I just think his makeup, what he's all about, felt like he got slighted in the draft, and I will agree with him. He did. Not saying maybe he should have been the first player picked. I'm not saying that. But I think there's a lot that went into that, why he dropped so much. I don't think it had anything to do with football. But the other things that go along with football, I think the glare of who he is, who his father is, I think a lot of teams were hesitant, worried that they didn't want that in their locker room. But when you meet the kid and you meet what he's about, he's a pro. He's a pro. He knows how to do things. He goes about it the right way. So I just think when the lights come on and they start playing in the preseason.
You probably think you've heard the full story of what happened during the 2024 NFL Draft. But the truth, you've only seen the surface. Former NFL head coach Herm Edwards just ripped the lid off one of the most controversial draft day narratives in recent memory, and his revelations about Shedeur Sanders are nothing short of explosive. This wasn't a simple case of a quarterback being overhyped or overrated. According to Edwards, it was a calculated slide fueled not by skill concerns, but by fear, specifically fear of the name Sanders. Teams weren't worried about his accuracy, leadership, or command of the offense. They were worried about headlines, about pressure, about the man who raised him. Edwards is crystal clear. Teams didn't pass on Shedeur because of anything he did wrong on the field. They passed on him because they were scared of the legacy he represents. This wasn't about football, he said. It was about the noise around football. And now Edwards believes every single one of those franchises is about to feel the heat of their mistake. He's not just throwing out another rookie to watch take. He's issuing a warning to the entire league. You messed up. Let's start with the basics. The 2024 NFL Draft was supposed to be a goldmine for quarterback talent. Several names were thrown around as potential franchise changers. Shedeur Sanders, fresh off a record-breaking college career where he put Colorado football back on the map, was among the most talked about. Statistically, he outperformed nearly every quarterback in his class. He showed poise under pressure, arm talent, pocket awareness, and an innate understanding of defensive schemes. Yet somehow, he fell hard. As teams reached for lesser-known names, Sanders watched his stock tumble. And for those watching closely, it wasn't just puzzling, it was suspicious. Herm Edwards isn't just hinting that something fishy went down, he's stating it plainly. There's a reason he fell, he explained, and it's not because he couldn't play. According to him, teams let media narratives, celebrity status, and locker room culture fears influence their decision-making. When teams started looking at who his father is, what he brings outside the game, some got uncomfortable. They didn't want Deion Sanders' energy inside their building. But that's exactly the kind of energy you want, right? Deion Sanders is a Hall of Famer, a generational athlete, a winner in every sense. Yet instead of embracing that legacy, teams turned and ran from it. Think about that. NFL franchises, worth billions, turned their backs on a quarterback because he came with a lineage of greatness. They weren't worried about Shedeur's work ethic. They were worried about primetime showing up to press conferences. Now here's where it gets even more baffling. Edwards, who has actually spent time around Shedeur, describes him as the opposite of what teams feared. He's a pro, Edwards said. He handles himself like a vet. He's focused. He knows how to prepare. This isn't a case of a kid who let social media hype go to his head. This is a young man raised by a Hall of Famer, trained in discipline, and ready to compete. So let's get this straight. Teams walked away from a highly intelligent, NFL-ready quarterback because they didn't want to deal with attention because they feared the press. That's not just cowardice, it's bad business. When you let media optics cloud football decisions, you lose. And when you pass up on talent because of legacy pressure, you don't just miss, you fumble. And that's why Cleveland, of all teams, might have stumbled into a gold mine. Edwards is fully convinced the Browns have just landed the steal of the century. If Shedeur gets a fair shot, Edwards said, he's going to beat those guys out. This isn't just hype, it's conviction. It's the kind of confident endorsement that comes from a coach who's seen behind the scenes. So why does Edwards believe in Sanders so strongly? Because Shedeur isn't learning on the job. He's been preparing for this role since childhood. This kid has been around football his whole life, Edwards explained. He's not just playing the game, he understands the game. He was trained for this. Most rookies enter the league trying to figure out how to read complex coverages. He's been breaking down tape with Deion Sanders since grade school. What truly separates Shedeur Sanders from the average rookie isn't just his raw ability, it's his education. We're not talking about textbooks and lectures, we're talking about a lifetime of football knowledge handed down from one of the most brilliant defensive minds the NFL has ever seen. His father, Deion Sanders. Herm Edwards doesn't mince words when he talks about Shedeur's preparation. He's been schooled since he was a kid, Edwards said. He's had a masterclass in football from a Hall of Famer every single day of his life. While most NFL newcomers are trying to wrap their heads around playbooks, Sanders has already internalized what it takes to read, react, and lead. He knows the difference between a disguised blitz and a coverage shift. He knows how to spot weaknesses in a defense before the ball is even snapped. That kind of football IQ, you can't teach it overnight. It comes from years of being immersed in the game at the highest level. And Shedeur's had that advantage from day one. But here's the kicker. Despite all that knowledge, teams still overlooked him. Edwards believes it's because of fear. Fear of a player who already knows too much, who might demand too much, who might bring too much spotlight. It's the kind of fear that reveals how fragile NFL egos can be. Some teams didn't want the pressure that comes with Deion, Edwards said. They didn't want the expectations, the eyes, the media attention. Instead of seeing Deion's presence as a mentorship advantage, they treated it like a liability, and that decision could come back to haunt them, especially when the preseason rolls around. See, Edwards isn't speculating about Shedeur's chances in the NFL. He's predicting a breakout moment, and he's pointing directly to the preseason as the stage where Sanders will prove everyone wrong. When the lights come on and the ones are on the field, Edwards said, that's when you'll see it. He's going to rise to that moment. That moment might arrive sooner than expected, especially considering the situation in Cleveland's quarterback room. Right now, the Browns don't just have a competition, they have an all-out quarterback traffic jam. They've got 5 quarterbacks in camp, Edwards said, shaking his head. Not 3, 5. And in the NFL, where reps are precious and time is limited, that's a recipe for chaos. Unlike college, where practice sessions stretch endlessly and every player gets reps, the NFL runs on a tight clock. You can't develop 5 quarterbacks at once. You need clarity, you need direction, and most importantly, you need to put your best talent against the best competition. That's what Edwards is fighting for. He doesn't want to see Shedeur slinging passes against undrafted rookies and third-string defenders. He wants him tested by fire. You find out what a guy's really about when he goes up against the starters, Edwards said, against the guys who hit hard and disguise coverages. That's when you see what's real. And Edwards is convinced Shedeur will thrive in that pressure cooker, because pressure is nothing new to him. Remember, Shedeur Sanders didn't come up in some quiet football environment where he could grow without scrutiny. He played with the weight of a famous last name on his back every step of the way. Every pass, every mistake, every touchdown. Someone was watching, judging, comparing him to his father. Most players would crack under that spotlight, but not Shedeur. He embraced it. He used it as fuel. That's what makes his situation in Cleveland so compelling. The Browns, as Edwards points out, are coming off a disastrous season, a 3-14 record, 0 wins in their division. They were 0-6 in their own division, Edwards said. You can't do worse than that, and that division is no cakewalk. It's loaded with powerhouse teams like the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers. On paper, Cleveland doesn't stand a chance, but that's also what makes it the perfect opportunity. When a team is that bad, fans are okay with change, Edwards said. They're okay with a rookie under center. They're looking for hope. And that's where Shedeur Sanders enters the picture. He doesn't just bring talent, he brings hope. He brings swagger. He brings the possibility that maybe, just maybe, Cleveland has finally found their guy. But Edwards warns that it has to start now. You don't draft quarterbacks to let them rot on the sideline. You draft them to play, to develop, to lead. You took 2 of them, Edwards reminded. So why are they not getting reps with the first team? That's not a rhetorical question. It's a challenge to the Browns coaching staff. Don't play it safe. Don't protect feelings. Don't waste time. Because in today's NFL, windows close quickly. Teams that hesitate get left behind. And teams that bet on the right rookie, those are the ones who change their franchise's future. It's one thing to draft a quarterback. It's another thing entirely to trust him with your franchise. That's the crossroads the Cleveland Browns now find themselves at. Herm Edwards isn't shy about it. He's pushing the Browns to make a real decision, not a safe one. You don't bring in 2 rookies and then let them collect dust on the sideline, he said. You drafted them for a reason. Let them prove who they are. And he's not just talking about giving them token reps in the 4th quarter of a preseason game. He means meaningful reps, reps that matter. Reps with the first-team offense against the first-team defense. Because in the NFL, there's no hiding once the whistle blows. It's the biggest stage with the fastest defenders, the smartest coordinators, and the most brutal expectations. You either rise or you're exposed. That's where Edwards believes Shedeur Sanders has the edge. Because Shedeur has already been under the microscope his entire life. The spotlight doesn't scare him. It energizes him. And leadership. That's where Edwards says Sanders truly separates himself. This league isn't just about throwing the ball. Edwards explained. It's about leading men. Can you walk into that huddle and get grown professionals to believe in you? That's the hidden test most rookies fail. It's not enough to have arm strength or flash on a highlight reel. You've got to gain the respect of veterans, players with families, contracts, and careers on the line. You think a 10-year veteran is going to trust a kid just because he was drafted high? Edwards asked. No, you've got to earn that respect. And Edwards has seen it. Shedeur does earn it. Not through ego, not through hype, but through presence, through preparation, through being the first one in and the last one out. He acts like a pro, Edwards said, because he's been around pros his whole life. This is where the conversation turns towards something deeper, something systemic. Edwards doesn't just think teams passed on Shedeur because of Deion Sanders' fame. He believes it reflects a larger issue in NFL front offices, a fear of strong personalities, of confident players, of non-traditional paths. They don't know how to handle players like Shedeur, he said. They see leadership and mistake it for arrogance. They see confidence and call it ego. But Edwards knows better. He's been inside those locker rooms. He's coached rookies who had the skills but lacked the mindset. And he's coached others who may not have had every physical tool but won games because they could lead. Shedeur has both. He's got the tools and the leadership. And Cleveland, they need both right now, badly. Let's take another hard look at the Browns' current reality. They're in a division with Lamar Jackson's Ravens, former MVPs, explosive schemes, dangerous defenses. Then there's Joe Burrow and the Bengals, one of the NFL's most complete rosters. And the Steelers, always physical, always disciplined, always a threat. What does Cleveland have? Outside of Myles Garrett, not much. As Edwards puts it bluntly, that Garrett guy, he's elite. But that's it. On paper, Cleveland is still years behind its rivals. But Edwards believes that's exactly why Shedeur should be under center, because it's not like the Browns are risking a playoff run. They were 3-14 last year. Edwards reminded, they're starting from scratch anyway. So why not give the kid a shot? It's not just about reps anymore. It's about direction, about identity. If Shedeur plays and plays well, he gives Cleveland something they haven't had in years. A face of the franchise, someone fans can believe in, someone who brings national attention for the right reasons, someone who doesn't flinch when the game is on the line. But Edwards knows it's not just up to Shedeur. The coaching staff has to meet him halfway. They have to test him, yes, but also trust him, give him the keys and let him drive. Edwards said, that's how you find out if he's the real deal. And preseason, that's the proving ground. Edwards isn't interested in training camp narratives or scrimmage reports. He wants to see Shedeur go toe-to-toe with starting caliber defenses in full-speed situations. Put him behind the #1 offensive line. Let him run the real plays. Let him feel the pressure, he insisted. Because when the bullets are live and the pocket collapses, that's when you know who's built for the moment and who isn't. Edwards is betting big that Shedeur is. And if he's right, this won't just be the story of a rookie stepping into the spotlight. It'll be the story of a young quarterback proving an entire league wrong. The NFL let its biases cloud its vision. Now it might be forced to watch as Shedeur Sanders takes that rejection and turns it into something legendary. The preseason lights are about to come on. For most rookies, it's just about survival. Don't screw up, don't throw picks, don't get rattled. But for Shedeur Sanders, it's different. This isn't just a warm-up. This is the NFL's wake-up call. Because every snap he takes is going to be dissected. Every throw will be analyzed like it's the Super Bowl. Every mistake will be exaggerated. But every moment of brilliance, that's going to force the league to reevaluate everything it thought it knew about him. And Herm Edwards is ready for that to happen. I've been around football a long time, Edwards said. And I've learned that the league doesn't always get it right the first time. Sometimes it takes a young man stepping onto that field and making believers out of doubters. He's not just hoping Shedeur succeeds, he's expecting it. Because behind the bright lights and the controversy, there's something undeniable about the kid. He's built for this. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually. Let's not forget the pedigree. Yes, he's Deion's son, but that's not why he's here. Shedeur made his own name at Jackson State and Colorado. He learned to play under pressure with a target on his back. He studied defenses like a pro, handled media like a veteran, and carried entire locker rooms on his shoulders. And now, with everything on the line, he's in the perfect position to do it again, only this time on Sundays. But there's more at stake here than just one player's future. Herm Edwards believes Shedeur's rise could change the way NFL teams evaluate leadership, character, and even legacy. There's this fear in front offices, he said. They're scared of noise, scared of family connections, scared of anything that breaks the mold. And Shedeur, he breaks every mold. He's not the silent rookie waiting his turn. He's vocal, he's confident, and he walks into every room knowing exactly who he is. Some teams see that as a red flag. Herm Edwards sees it as gold. You want a quarterback who thinks he's the best, Edwards said. Because when it's 3rd and 9 with the game on the line, confidence is what wins. Not doubt, not fear, confidence. And Shedeur has that in abundance, not because he's cocky, but because he's prepared. Because he's spent every step of his life working toward this moment. And now, finally, the opportunity is here. There's also a reality that no one wants to say out loud, but Herm Edwards isn't afraid to. If Shedeur Sanders fails, he'll be written off quicker than most. His last name will become a burden, not a badge. Critics will say, see, he was only good because of his dad. That's the double standard he's carrying onto the field. One bad game, and the whispers will return. One great game, and they'll call it luck. But if he strings together 3, 4, if he takes control of a huddle and wins game, that's when the narrative breaks. And that's what Edwards is counting on. He's got a real chance to make this team his. Edwards said, and if Cleveland's smart, they'll let him, because you can't teach what he brings. You can't coach that kind of poise. What's more, Edwards believes that if the Browns do hand Shedeur the reins, the entire culture of the team could shift. Young players respond to him, veterans respect him, coaches listen to him. That's rare, and when you have it, you don't waste it sitting on the bench behind someone who's just there collecting a paycheck. In a league where second chances are rare and narratives stick like glue, Shedeur Sanders is about to flip the script. He's not here to survive, he's here to lead. And if Herm Edwards is right, we're not just looking at a promising rookie, we're looking at the future of the Browns. But more than that, we're looking at the beginning of a reckoning for the NFL, a reminder that talent isn't always found at the top of the draft. That leadership can come from outside the spotlight, and that sometimes the best quarterback in the room is the one everyone doubted. So as Shedeur steps onto the field this preseason, know this, it's not just about wins or stats or viral clips. It's about legacy. It's about proving that belief can't be measured by draft slots. That greatness isn't limited by name or noise. That a kid from Boulder with the fire of his father and the mind of a field general can rise above it all and make the NFL eat its words. And Herm Edwards, he's not just betting on Shedeur Sanders, he's daring the league to keep underestimating him. Because when the season kicks off, the only question left will be, are you ready for Shedeur Sanders?